Hey people, it's Steel Gamer with a quick Red Dead Redemption 2 video where I'll be discussing, as the title says, too many mechanics make this game a failure. And due to the content involved in this, I'm not going to, engage with trolls, leave comments open up underneath the video, things like that. I'm just going to be reading something that I had wrote, and I'm going to be relaying it to get my point across. So without further ado, let me get right into it. So let me shut this webcam off so I can actually read this. Alright, so I'm going to start off by saying, unlike GTA San Andreas, where there was an overwhelming amount of things to do, Red Dead Redemption 2 for the PC has entirely way too many mechanics for this game to be enjoyable. I have always had a very serious problem with game developers implementing mechanics and either never explaining them or never even letting a player know that a lot of things in the game can be done. Take, for example, removing a bounty. The fact, first of all, they don't even explain removing a bounty, which is one thing, but they don't even tell you how to know if you have a bounty to begin with. So that's a problem. It's things like that I'm talking about. Now, while these complaints that I'm making may seem rudimentary, when there is an overwhelming amount of them, it immensely detracts from the gameplay because the focal point is no longer about the game and more about what else are you not being told, that you become increasingly disgruntled. So even something as simple as how you got to a menu becomes a chore, which again detracts from the gameplay. To elaborate on this more, I'll use crafting as an example. This game never explains how to actually craft. You only find out crafting is an option when you go through some of your inventory, but the problem extends beyond that. Instead of just simply finding an herb, in your satchel, which then explains to the player how to access the crafting screen, it instead just says the herb can be used in crafting and leaves the player with no further information. After seeing this happen frequently, the frustration level of that type of idiotic programming leaves the player with an attitude of it doesn't belong in the game and it's just another mechanic someone who paid for a game can now not use, even though it's part of it. I personally have written off crafting as a complete waste of time and doesn't belong in the game for the reasons I just explained. Now, to be clear here, whether or not crafting is important or useful isn't the point. It's a function of the game that I cannot currently use. Now, most players will say it's the player's fault for that. No. How the hell are you going to blame a player for not knowing how to use a function that they were either never told existed or told it can be used and then never elaborated on? The point here is that the internet has made people fucking lazy. And so now games are more about, hey, why don't you look this up? Instead of taking the time to understand that the game developer fucked this up by saying, hey, you can do this. Here's how. Or not even saying, here's what you can do. And somebody should not have to ask how to feed your horse. They just shouldn't. So let me continue. Another main function is Deadeye. I have absolutely no clue how to even activate this feature. That I just don't even care anymore. The problem here is that this is one of these options that the mechanic was explained to me, but because of all the other mechanics I'm struggling to understand, I have long forgotten the information that was relayed to me, which in itself is a problem. Now that I've been playing this game for so long without it, to me it's a useless feature. And it's important to understand people confuse a feature which can be used with it's not the same thing as a feature that you can actually use in order to enhance your playing. I shouldn't have to ask, again, how to feed my horse. I also shouldn't have to ask what the hell my active horse means. What the hell is an active horse? Yeah, people could say, well, it's the current horse you have. But if you have a message on the screen stating your active horse is either dead, and it's literally saying active horse and your secondary horse, what the hell does that shit even mean? They didn't even go over that, causing a conflict or a confusion in the explanations and the wording. All right, now for the kicker. Even though I don't use Eagle Eye for tracking, I know how to use it because of treasure maps, and I can tell you exactly how to activate it. So, I am under the impression that Eagle Eye and Dead Eye are the exact same mechanic. Even though I know they're not, I'm just given that impression because how the hell can I know how to use Eagle Eye but not Dead Eye? It just doesn't make any sense. Somebody's like, well, you weren't paying attention. And you weren't paying attention to what I said at the beginning of this video. Alright, in closing, after watching several videos of things to know in Red Dead Redemption 2 from various sources, I am finding out about all sorts of things that are never even explained in the game at all. But what's worse is the videos showing these things or explaining to you things that you can do never actually explain in the video how to access those options in order to do them. The amount of mechanics in this game and the utter lack of explanation and player know-how destroys the game for its purpose. If you cannot use all the features due to sheer ignorance and not letting the player know and not fully explaining the current mechanics the player is, explaining the current mechanics the player is made aware of to the point where they would have to, have the choice to use them, this makes this an extremely bad flaw in the overall game's design structure. There is no point in having mechanics in a game that either the player doesn't know about or the player is never fully explained how to use what they have been told. What's been mentioned so far has been such a cluster screw and overwhelms the player so much that they cannot even remember what's being told that is there. So, the whole point to this video, and people can bitch at me all they want or do whatever it is that they want, but the fact remains, this game has entirely way too many mechanics which make the game a failure. They're overwhelming the player with putting so many things in the game that you can do that whether or not it's trivial doesn't matter. It's something that you pay for, that it's part of the game, and you should have the choice to use it by being, being told by the developer this is an option, or stop stuffing the player so full of options, and then, it's partly the player's fault for reading stuff on the internet and things like that about what you can do, that it just pisses them off. Now, it's important to understand here in my final statement before ending this, this video, that players confuse knowing an Easter egg, which is supposed to be found by playing, in a mechanic to be used in a game. An Easter egg that's the whole point to an Easter egg. You're supposed to guess, figure it out, and have fun with messing with it. A game mechanic is not an Easter egg, and gamers actually confuse the two of them and say, well, you should figure it out. It's not a fucking Easter egg. It's a game mechanic that allows you to be able to enhance your game or enjoy the game. And I used to hear this. I used to read this comment consistently in World of Warcraft when I was playing World of Warcraft Classic. When somebody says, well, how do you use this? Players would then respond, well, it's an old mechanic, just forget about it. Why? If a person wants to use a mechanic, why do you care? They bought the game, so they want to experience the mechanic. Whether or not it's old or out of date has no relevance to that fact, and it's something that gamers just go in one ear and out the fucking other. It's like, oh, it's old, just don't use it. Why? What do you mean? Great, it's old. So, this is one of the main reasons I don't use a lot of the stuff in WoW. It's because when I find out about it, the system is so fucked up and so overwhelming that there's no point in even trying to learn it. It's just pointless because you're never going to get a direct answer, and people will just assume and there's no way you can be this dumb. You're trolling, not understanding that the mechanic has too many elements to it to even begin explaining. You can't just assume a player knows something. So, because this game has entirely way too mechanics in it, I don't even use Deadeye. I don't even know how to fucking use it. I have no idea how to activate it, but I can sit and activate, Eagle Eye. So it's ridiculous. All I've been basically doing in this game is wandering around playing poker. I can barely even find players. I cannot even open the menu for crafting because I don't know where the hell it is. It's like somebody's like, well, press down on this, and then it's like, pressing down on this opens a different menu. Oh, you got to hold it down. And then when you hold it down, it's like, where the hell is that menu? How did you access that menu? Well, you got to go in here, and it's like, it's a fucking mess. Just have a menu, explain how to open it up. And to make matters worse, this information is not even in the keybinds. There's no help menu for this at all. It's like you have to remember. This is like trying to fucking cram for a test and then having to remember every single thing on it. This game is just, it has entirely too many mechanics, which is not the same thing as having too many things to do. So that's really all I got to say on this. Is TL Gamer signing off. Have a good day or night wherever you guys are.